Hi, I'm Steffanie Rivers, and I want justice for Breonna Taylor because the police officers involved showed reckless disregard for her life and the lives of her neighbors.
Her. So you're saying she essentially died on the floor right there?
Second that she got shot, she was.
Family, did the city of Birmingham, did anybody say, did the church, did anybody say there's more to?
Hello and welcome to the video version of my journal. I'm Steffanie Rivers. Come on into the conversation. You are watching me on several platforms, maybe on YouTube, maybe on Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn. We want to welcome you to the conversation. And if you are new to the conversation, we want to, I know you're going to hear something that you like. And so please share and subscribe so that the next time I post videos, you'll be the first to know. If you're a returning subscriber, thanks for coming back. We have some information to share. On my podcast, I focus on social issues that impact the African American community. And one of the most pressing issues is deadly encounters between Black people and law enforcement. And so it doesn't matter if you're running away. It doesn't matter if you are on the pavement face down. It doesn't matter if you're in your apartment eating ice cream. It doesn't matter if you're minding your own business. Black people seem to have targets on their backs, and law enforcement seems to be gunning for us. So many Black people don't live to tell about their encounter with law enforcement. But we have someone with us today, Jalea Marie, who survived her encounter with Arlington, Texas police officers, and she's here to tell her story with her attorney Blaram El-Mazi. So we want to welcome both of them to the show. Welcome, lady and gentlemen, to our show.
Thank you so much for having us.
Hi, thank you.
So, Jalea, just wanted to make sure we can hear you. I think you just spoke a little. So we want to thank you guys for taking the time out to tell your story, Jalea, and Mr. El-Mazi, her attorney. So before we get into it, as we said before, it doesn't matter what you're doing, it seems, whether you're running away or face down, in your own apartment, even mind your own business. Cops will use an excuse, it seems, to use deadly force. So your encounter, Jalea, happened about 6 weeks ago. So last month in March, early part of March, in Arlington, Texas. So tell us what happened, or Attorney El-Mazi, give us a summation of what happened that led to guns being drawn on Jalea by the cops at the from the Arlington Police Department.
Absolutely. So basically what happened and how this encounter began is, and again, this is all based on information that Arlington has released. There's a lot of information we do not yet know that we've attempted to gain from Arlington, but they're currently withholding that information. Essentially, this boils down to Jalea was at a Super 8 hotel in Arlington, Texas, and Arlington police were investigating an armed robbery that occurred at a convenience store nearby. And they were looking for a black male suspect, okay? And so while looking for that suspect, there's somehow or some way directed to the Super 8 hotel in Arlington. And once they get in there, We believe they immediately began talking with the clerk there at the front. We don't know what all of that conversation entailed, but what I imagine happened is the clerk was notified that the police were looking for a black male and probably looked at his log and said, "Oh, I know a black male who's staying in room 205 here." And so he initially directed police to room 205 before he said, "Well, actually, I transferred this individual to room 225, which is actually the room that Jalea was in." And Jalea, of course, not knowing about anything that's going on outside in the lobby, obviously not in any way involved in this armed robbery at a convenience store, but police are somehow directed to her hotel room, right? Police in search of a black male end up at a black female's hotel room, call her on the phone, or call the hotel room expecting to encounter a black male on the phone. Instead, Jalea answers, and she's cooperative and says, "Okay, I'm not in any way involved in this, but I'm gonna come out and clear my name and talk to you guys." Police told her, "We have a warrant to come in, and there's no need to come into the hotel room. I'm coming out." So she comes out, and to her surprise, several officers are pointing their weapons at her, prepared to use deadly force at any moment's notice. And she drops her things, walks backwards to the police with her hands up, and at that point she's detained between 1 to 2 hours, right? And during the course of this detention, she asked to use the bathroom, she asked to use her phone, she asked for some water. They decline all of her requests, right? They treat her as a suspect immediately from the moment they call into that hotel room. And keep in mind, they're looking for a black male suspect. They're not looking for Jalea here. But still, they lied to her about having a warrant. When they asked to search her hotel room, she tells them, "Well, I thought you guys had a warrant. You could have just gone into my hotel room." It turns out they lied about the warrant. And when she finally gives her consent, they're like, "Well, actually, we were going to search it, but we feel like we've coerced you, so we're not going to search your hotel room anymore because your consent is not valid at that point." And although she was obviously detained, she was in the back of a police vehicle. When asked, "Am I being detained or am I under arrest?" they keep telling her, "No, no, no. But also, you're not free to go." So this whole encounter has been very strange. And I think it's important that we discuss this because luckily, Jalea escaped out of that situation with her life. But we know of many situations where officers pull out their weapons, prepare to use deadly force, and whether it be intentional or a mistake, deadly force is ultimately used, and someone loses their life over it. And so we're just thankful that Jalea is still here to tell her story, but we understand how badly this could have gone.
Exactly. Jalea, explain to us like what was going through your mind, because essentially you were cooperating, trying to help them get to the bottom of it. At what point did you say to yourself, "You know what? My cooperation, me being an innocent person, me being cooperative and being innocent might not work to my advantage"? At what point did that cross your mind, if at all?
It was on my mind like the whole time because I knew the whole time that I was innocent, but they were telling me that I was lying to them. They were telling me the information I provided was incorrect. Um, what was going through my head the whole time was obviously my safety, the safety of my little brother. Just my life, my life. I wasn't sure if that was it. I was like, this could be it. This could be the end, and that was the most terrifying part because I watch TV. Not only do I watch TV, I'm on social media. Our executions are televised on a daily. And that was just one of those instances where I don't feel like there was anything I could have done that would have convinced them that, I was who I said I was and that I was telling the truth. It seemed like they just had, I don't know, a vengeance. Like they just were in a mood and they wanted to flex their power, and they flexed it on me, although they knew I wasn't a suspect. They made it known that they knew I wasn't a suspect. But overall, I was afraid for my life. I was afraid for my freedom, because it was at one point where I thought they were going to try and frame me for the situation at hand. So it's just fear. That's fear.
So, so you said your brother was there. You had family with you. At what point did they tell you, or did you realize, or did after hours? Because you would think they would, if they're looking for a man and you're not a man, and they've already said you're not a suspect. At what point did they say you're free to go? And then we do have the video that we want to show that you posted on your social media. So I guess let's show that first, because so we can show that after 2 hours, like your attorney is saying, they realize you're not the person they're looking for. They realize they were looking for a man and you're a woman, and they detained you, but said you're not free to go, but you're not, under arrest. So there were several things that went wrong. And then this happened. And so at some point you were able to use your cell phone, or somebody used the phone to get this on camera. So let's bring this up. Let's see.
So this is a learning curve for you? Putting guns to an innocent person back, that's a learning curve.
I'm not saying that, I'm just saying, I said every call, there's something to learn.
That's a learning curve. You put guns to my back. That's a learning curve for you? That's a learning curve. You put guns to my back. That's a learning curve. I could have died. And that's a fucking learning curve for you? A learning curve. A learning curve? Really? A learning curve? A learning curve? That's a learning curve.
You got the call.
They put guns to my back.
Okay.
That's a learning curve?
Okay.
A learning curve? Really? A learning curve? This is my life. And you want to talk about your fucking education? A learning curve? Why are you wiping the surveillance video?
Ma'am, I can't elaborate on our investigation.
Why are you wiping the surveillance video?
Watch it. We're not allowed to wipe.
I just heard you say until you finish wiping the surveillance video.
You misheard. Hey, the female that came out of 225 was wanting a supervisor.
What's your best contact?
They had guns to my fucking back, y'all.
All right. So after all of that, when you ask them for, and to explain why they got it wrong, they're like, well, we just get things wrong. It was a learning curve. And we hear how emotional that was. And, rightly so, because like we've already said, and we know from experience, many people don't survive that type of encounter. So what was it, so after all of this, what was it that, were they able to give you any explanation? And were they looking at the cameras, the video from the surveillance at the hotel? What was it that you were referring to when you were saying, why did you, what are you trying to do? Erase that video?
So it was They were looking at the surveillance camera, which they didn't attempt to investigate that information until after they had already traumatized me. Um, they were So what happened was, after the whole situation, they didn't let me go until they were able to verify that my brother was at work. So it wasn't until my brother came back to the room from work that they let me go. That's when I went up to my room and I was able to get my phone. Um, and when I came back down, they were um, there were three officers, I think, three male officers. They went behind the desk and they were asking the hotel clerk about, it's to me, it sounded like they said, how do we erase the footage? Or wipe. The word was wipe. Um, but and when he asked that, that's when the hotel clerk got up and walked over towards the surveillance cameras, and that's when I confronted the officers about it, and they said that I misheard, and they didn't say wipe. He said watch. Um, uh, I heard wipe. That and that's all I can say is that's what I heard. I heard him say wipe.
And it seems like they would have looked at that before they did all this drawing of guns and holding people. It's like the um um the process, Attorney Amazi, the process, it seems, is like backwards. Like it seems like they are just learning on the fly, not really giving value to people's lives or people's well-being, emotional state of mind that they're putting people in when you draw guns on people. Is that
Absolutely.
what is will you speak to that? Is that something that you see a lot of?
Absolutely. And, it's a very unfortunate reality of our system of policing here in America. But even more so in Arlington, Texas, and really a lot of the surrounding cities in North Texas is, we have some of the deadliest policing in the whole country, and it's right here, it's local. There really is a policy almost of shoot first and ask questions later. And luckily, unfortunately, in this case, no shots were fired. But it's sort of a habit now, or a custom or practice of, let's commit the misconduct, let's violate someone's rights, and we'll go back and deal with it later, right? So rather than doing your due diligence and proceeding carefully to a situation, you put someone at gunpoint in a situation that could have easily ended in deadly use of force, right? I've seen situations that are remarkably similar to what Jalea encountered that did end up deadly, that were of people inside of a hotel room being held at gunpoint. And knowing that we are essentially at the will of that sort of policing, that should be very troubling for anyone in the United States, knowing that the police can pull that trigger at any moment, wrongfully identify you as a suspect, knowing they're looking for a male suspect, but none of that matters, right? There's a shoot first, ask questions later, or commit misconduct first and ask questions later policy. And so that's really what we want to highlight and what we hope to fight by sharing Julia's story.
So, Jalea, you did more than just post it on social media. You actually hired an attorney, a person who knows, who specializes in civil rights uh, cases like yours. What is it that you want to happen? What does justice look like for you?
You know what, with in today's society, I don't really know what justice is. I know what I thought justice justice was, but it seems like that's, you know, far-fetched people that looked like me. So just any form of accountability, whatever, I guess whatever that means for you all, for the people, for the judicial system, you know, whatever I can get, because I'm not okay. I'm not okay right now.
And
So,
Stephanie, if I could just elaborate even a little more on that,
mhm.
justice would have been that situation never happening to begin with, right? That is justice when it does not happen. What we're after for now that her rights have been violated, we're after accountability. Will this city, will this police department, will the hotel own up to their mistake? And I don't know that Jalea's mentioned this yet, but after they violated her rights, after they almost ended her life, they tell her, oh, here are some counseling resources through the city that you can pursue as a victim. And she even called victim services a few days later to inquire about those services. And of course, they weren't available to her because that night they may say, you know what, you're a victim. We're sorry. This is a learning curve. But the next day they turn back around and try to sweep it under the rug and discard you as just another person who almost came into a deadly force encounter with Arlington, Texas police. And so the behavior of law enforcement and the behavior of the hotel, quite frankly, was really atrocious, very disrespectful, and really just an affront to basic humanity and decency. This is not how we should have our police officers operate. We want to see them own up to their mistake, to apologize, and for what it's worth, there is accountability in simply serving someone a lawsuit and forcing them to answer to you in court. They won't give us answers right now, but once we're in court, they'll be required to answer.
So did they apologize at all? Has the police department contacted you, Jalea, or Attorney Elmazi? What have they said, about what the case? Have they acknowledged you at all?
Not really. Jalea filed a internal affairs complaint shortly after the incident, and I believe about a week or 10 days ago, they actually followed up with her about the internal affairs complaint. And just to preface that, internal affairs complaints are completely within a department. You can complain about an officer. They do an internal investigation, and normally they will always clear the officer. In Jalea's case, they came back to interview her about it. And when she tried to get her attorney on the line, when she tried to get me on the line, the guy didn't even want me on the line, right? He just wanted to see if he could stonewall or, manipulate what Jalea was complaining about. But, we did the interview anyways. And I imagine there's going to be no finding of wrongdoing. Arlington's already come out with a statement saying they committed no wrongdoing. So, it'll be pretty shocking to hear any police department admit of any sort of wrongdoing, especially in Arlington.
And you know what? It did happen, a few weeks ago. And sometimes justice, whatever that looks like, takes a while, which it shouldn't, but it takes a while, whether that's, a civil case coming to fruition, or, some type of compensatory, is that what it's called? That for Jalea. And so I would say, your advice, Attorney Elmazi, what would your advice be to anyone who might not have had something that they posted on social media, but they had an incident with law enforcement, and they're wondering, do I have a case? Is there something that I could do to bring light? What advice would you give them?
Well, I think it's always important to talk with an attorney about it. I think really one of the few good things to come out of people filming more and more police encounters and even encounters involving deadly force, right? We're all unfortunately tired of seeing people executed in the streets by police. But one of the good things to come out of it is more of the public thinks now, hey, maybe I can do something about a past encounter, or maybe I can do something about a future encounter, God forbid. You know, I've had clients, and there's a statute of limitations to everything, right? Normally in Texas here, you generally have 2 years to file a lawsuit against a city for violating your rights. But there have been people who said, hey, I was assaulted really badly by police 5 years ago, and are just now calling because they didn't know there was anything you could do about these situations. And so what I encourage people to do is always contact an attorney about it. Even if you feel like you want to do something about it, of course, but sort of to give you some closure on knowing that you did everything you could in a terrible situation to vindicate your rights.
All righty. And Jalea, you're a published photographer. Where can we find you? You know, because you know, things happen, and I'm sure it might have changed how you know, even though it's not our fault, some things that happen, it still affects us and how we move. So one, how has this changed you, and how you move, how you're moving forward? And two, if we want to know more about your photography and how to follow you, where can we find your work?
Well, thank you for plugging me in. I appreciate that. How has it changed me? It has changed me for the absolute worst. Like, I'm angry all the time. I'm mad. Like, I'm questioning myself. I'm questioning my life, my existence, my worth, because they made me feel worthless. Like my life didn't matter. Um, I'm depressed. I'm extremely depressed. Like, I'm literally having an identity crisis right now. Like, it's hard. I don't know how to get back to my life and who I was. I don't know how to go back to being a photographer. I don't know how to go back to just being Jalea. Like, it's hard. Um, I'm trying every day. I'm working on it. I'm trying to stay grounded, you know, meditating, working out, fasting, praying, doing whatever I can. And the relief is just temporary. Like, there's still this really deep, really dark feeling of like just impending doom. Like nothing matters.
Mm.
Like, not even me. Um, it's hard. It's really hard.
You know what? I'm so sorry to hear that. And so I am glad to know that your family is there with you, and that your mom was on the scene. So you have, you know, a support system. And you know, I've never had that happen to me, and so I can't say how I would feel about it. But I, you know, I know that you know, your life is worth something, is worth more than how you were treated. And I'm going to pray for you as well. And I just want you to, you know, maybe it's going to take time, but you know, channel that feeling of anger and sadness, and hopefully it will, you know, manifest itself in a, a, a positive way. So you know, that's why, you know, it's so important that when these things happen to us, that we don't just, you know, sit by ourselves and not address it. And so even though when you did follow up with the city for therapy, and maybe that's not the people you even want to go to for therapy, I suggest that, you do find a way to address it, to talk about it so you can get through it. Because if not, like you said, it just leaves you feeling like you're not worth it. And we all know that we are worth it.
Yeah. Honestly, I have been healing the same way that I was able to, create the exposure, which is via TikTok. I have created a little community, a small community of following, with people that have just been concerned with my mental health and my well-being. They check in with me on a daily basis, ask me how I'm doing, how am I feeling today. And that's really helpful. I do really appreciate that. My family members, it's still, I'm grateful, but it's still just a feeling of like, it's not enough. Like, I don't know. I feel like something more should come from it. Something needs to be done. Like, it just shouldn't have happened. It shouldn't have happened.
Well, so what I want to do is I'll stay in touch, and I'm locally. I live in Dallas. If there's any event or anything that is attached to your case, be sure to email me or let me know, and then I'll try to help get the word out about it so we can get some support behind it. And so we'll keep up abreast of of uh, of what's going on. So yeah, it seems like the least would be for the cops on the scene to be held accountable, and for the hotel that just put you out there, said, threw you under the bus basically. It's like something needs to be done, but justice is not going to come. You got to fight for it and go get it. And so that's why you hired um an attorney. So you're on the right path to making a change. So I appreciate both of you for being here. Is there anything else that you want to add that I didn't ask either of you?
No,
No,
ma'am.
I
Thank you
really
so much.
appreciate you for having us.
All righty. So thank you guys. And again, we'll keep in touch and do an update in the next few weeks or whenever something happens. So thanks again for being here, and we'll talk to you guys soon.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much.
All righty. All right, and thank you as well for being here. To find out more, you can find out more about Jalea Marie. That's her handle on Instagram. I am Jalea Marie. That's her. I didn't want to play that. Let me see. No, I don't have that up anymore. Her page, but I am Jalea Marie. That's her Instagram handle. And if you are living in the Texas area or the DC area, the law office of Blaram Elmazi, he is licensed to practice in Texas and DC, and he covers civil rights cases. So if you have an instance where you think that you might have a case and you want to be counseled by an attorney, be sure to contact him. Or if you're in another jurisdiction, just look up a civil rights attorney in your area. And so again, we want to thank you for being here. And to find out more about the things that I care about, you can go to the written version of my journal. That's at eurweb.com. Thanks, and you have a super day.